Today we're going to look at 4 dinnerware lines made by Homer Laughlin in the late 1930s. All of these are solid colored dinnerware. We're going to look at 2 that are going to be bright Fiesta bold colors, and then we're going to look at 2 that are in pastel shades. We'll start with Tango. This was developed in July of 1936. The original concept was to have a small breakfast set for Quaker Oats, but that didn't happen. It was developed into a full line of dinnerware. And instead, what they did for Quaker Oats, they made a very similar shape called tea rose that we'll look at a little bit later. The flatware, let's look at a plate, is a direct copy of a line that was made in Sweden. This is one of the few times that Reed just flat out copies a shape. He's not inspired by or modifies somebody else's work. He just flat out copies it. So you can find pieces that look very similar to this in different glazes that will say Swedish on the back of them, or made in Sweden. Tango is never marked. We have a plate in the Harlequin blue, spruce green. There's also Fiesta red, Harlequin yellow, and maroon. I don't have any hollowware to show you, so this picture is going to stand in. This is the sugar and creamer. So where the flatware is a direct copy, I can't speak of the hollowware. I'm not sure about that. But it does have the elements of Tango in the hollowware. We've got the segmented design that we see in the flatware. So Tango starts in 36. It was produced all the way into the early 1940s. I used to think that there were only 4 colors, the 4 Harlequin colors. But it turns out that the maroon and the Fiesta red were produced simultaneously for Tango. There's a memo here dated 1938. And what it talks about, it says that when red is ordered, they're going to call it Tango red, which is the maroon. And when they got Tango orange, it's going to be Fiesta red. So they are offered simultaneously, but they have to make a distinction between red and Tango orange so that there's no confusion. We've got a couple advertisements. This comes from newspapers.com. Some of these ads that I show you that are copies, I should mention they come from newspapers.com because I should give them credit. You can also find advertisements in Google newspapers. I don't use that often, but you got to know what keywords to type in. And in the case of Tango dinnerware, you usually have to put in Tango pottery. That's also true of Fiesta. If you type in Fiesta pottery, you will find advertisements. Again, that's newspapers.com or Google newspapers. You can find all kinds of Homer Laughlin advertisements. And this particular one talks about blue, coral, which would be the maroon, yellow, and green, which is spruce green, of course. So we see Tango being offered here. And we see one from 1944. This is pretty late in its run. And we've got, what colors we have here? Green, yellow, wine, which is maroon. Tango was also a theater giveaway. There were premium companies that would buy Tango in bulk, and then it would be distributed to movie theaters across the country. But Tango has a pretty short run. It's not easy to find. Again, I'm sorry I don't have any hollowware to show you, but hopefully you can see the picture good enough to see what that's all about. You will find the Tango shakers used in Riviera, art glazes. I have a set here in Chinese red. I don't know anything about these. I wish I did. Several collectors have found these over the years. I don't even know if those were fired at Homer Laughlin, to be honest with you. It could have been that they were just greenware fired somewhere else. But yeah, you will find these Chinese red shakers with the Tango shape. So the next line I want to look at is Riviera. Riviera, let's see, samples were made in December 1937. There was an effortlessness to Riviera because the century shape already existed. We looked at century in video number 9 and talked about how there is a resurgence of this shape with colorful decals. So the shape was around, the glazes were already around because the initial ones used were Fiesta red and light green from Fiesta, and then you've got Harlequin blue and Harlequin yellow. So they just took the century shapes, the Fiesta and Harlequin glazes, put it together, and presto, you've got Riviera. So there wasn't a lot of development done with this shape, or this line, I should say. There were a couple pieces made specially for Riviera, the handled tumblers, which are Harlequin tumblers without rings and an added handle, the little quarter-pound butter dish, a juice set. We need to talk about ivory for a moment. Let's look at this. I have a copy of a boilerplate letter that was sent out circa 1943. And it starts off and it says, under the WPB limitation orders. So WPB was the War Protection Board. It was a government agency from 1942 to 1945 that dictated what manufacturers could and couldn't use with respect to raw materials. It could be copper or aluminum or steel. In this case, it was uranium oxide. They said that Homer Laughlin could no longer purchase it to make the Fiesta red glazes. So it says, we shall continue Riviera in blue, green, yellow, and shall add a fourth color, Riviera Ivory. For ivory, it's going to be Fiesta Old Ivory. And they talk about how ivory is going to be priced the same as the blue, green, and yellow because Fiesta Red was always higher. So the absence of Fiesta Red had more of an impact on Riviera than the other lines, simply because there was only 4 colors at any given time. So after 1943, you're left with 4 glazes. You've got the Harlequin Blue, the yellow, the light green, and the ivory. Somewhat of a bland color palette. I wish they would have put Harlequin Rose in there instead. Now, Huxford's Fiesta book, which we always consider the gold standard for many years with respect to Homer Laughlin lines, they say that Riviera was a Murphy's exclusive, or G.C. Murphy exclusive. That's partially true. G.C. Murphy did carry Riviera, but Riviera was meant for the general trade. Anybody could carry this line. We've got a couple advertisements. This one is from JCPenney, which has a Riviera breakfast set alongside a Fiesta juice set. This one is from J.J. Newberry's. This comes from the late 1940s. We see, or no, is it late 1940s? Riviera, yellow, green, orange, and blue. So no, this is early 40s. So we have Virginia Rose, which is the JJ59 treatment, Riviera. And then we have Windsor Rose. This is Brittany with silkscreen border and decals. We saw this pattern in video number 13 when we talked about silkscreen. And here we see Murphy's. This is from 1946. So we should see ivory in this mix. We've got, let's see, blue, green, yellow, and ivory, made by the famous Homer Laughlin China Company. So yeah, Riviera continues all the way to 1950. We'll look at this in a second. We have an original Riviera composition list from November 15th, 1950. This is towards the end of its run, and it's showing how Riviera is sold in its various compositions in blue, yellow, green, and ivory. You could get 16-piece sets, 20, 22, 25, 32, and so forth, and it has the price scale. So in 1951, when Harlequin and Fiesta undergo their color assortment change, it doesn't happen in Riviera. Riviera is just flat out discontinued. What else do we want to look at? This is a drawing of Riviera stickers that was meant for G.C. Murphy. Sometimes you can find the stickers. They're foil stickers on Riviera with prices. The one that was actually used was this, what I call the cloud sticker. The other 3 were not. And you might see a little additional sticker with it that has the price. So they're somewhat rare if you can find a sticker. One other thing about Riviera, before moving on, we have a price list here with the standard assortment, by the way. Or not a price list, but just a little brochure. As I said, anybody could sell it, and anybody could name it whatever they wanted as well. We have a couple advertisements. This is from a Butler Brothers 1938 catalog, and it says Homer Laughlin's Outstanding News Square Bohemia Ware. In colors similar to those of Fiesta, you could get everything in the picture for $3.95. And you will see subsequent editions of the Butler Brothers catalog calling this Bohemia Ware. And it's not uncommon for a retailer or a catalog to name dinnerware. Sometimes Homer Laughlin didn't name their ware, so the retailer would take it upon themselves to assign a name. Even though Riviera had its own name, they call it Bohemia Ware here, though. We'll just look quick on the other side, because Butler Brothers sold a lot of Homer Laughlin ware over the years, and we see Hudson, Virginia Rose, Marigold Shapes, Coronet, Brittany, Virginia Rose, Eggshell Nautilus, Century, and Virginia Rose again. So we'll take a closer look at those someday when we do a special video on Butler Brothers. But I just wanted to point out the Bohemia Ware, and here we have Juanita dinner set. So this is a proof copy of an ensemble set using Riviera shapes. A little bit different from the other ensemble sets we've seen so far in that this was a giveaway. So appliance stores, furniture stores would buy these ensemble sets, and then if you bought like an appliance or a large piece of furniture, they'd give you the ensemble set. And in this case, it was valued at $20. This little box would have been filled in with details like an address and phone number. The glassware, we see this again with the little swivel sticks and the glass ashtrays and the cutlery. All of these would have been supplied by the respective manufacturers to the end user, and then it would be up to the end user to put the ensemble sets together. We'll look one more thing, a copy of a letter here. Let's see. This is dated September 1939, and it's from the Hopkins Brothers Furniture Company in Indiana. And what they're saying is, you know, you've sent us the, let's see, a blue dinner plate, blue cup, an orange cup. We're supposed to be Juanita ware, but you sent us Riviera. And they're asking for a correction to this. And people at HLC respond on September 14th, 1939, Riviera dinnerware and Juanita are the same. We took the regular Riviera colored dinnerware and have made ensemble sets and just called it Juanita. When you find the samples, get there, they are going to match. So yeah, that's just a little bit about Riviera and the name change and who could sell it and how they could sell it. In the back you see some cobalt pieces. We've got some a rectangular well and an oval well platter. We talked a little bit about those in the Century video, number 9, where anything with an oval well, whether it be a baker or platter, is going to have this stabilization foot, and the rectangular wells are going to be completely flat on the bottom. You can find cobalt Riviera, like you can find the 7-inch plate, I believe it is, in Riviera, or these platters, usually meant to go with a batter set. But any other cobalt Riviera is going to be extremely rare, like a casserole, sugar, creamer. In fact, I think those might be one-offs. So you can find it, but they're a little more desirable and a little more pricey. That's enough about Riviera for now. The next one is Serenade. Now, Serenade was developed in January and February of 1939, and it was in response to Luray Pastels, which had come out the year before by Taylor Smith and Taylor in Chester, West Virginia. And we have a little brochure here from the early 1940s showing some of Luray Pastels. This was similar to Fiesta in regards that it sort of blurred the line between artware and dinnerware. We see some, let's see, there's a vase here. There are actually 3 styles of vases. And of course the relish dish. This line was very elegantly designed. It's very, very streamlined, very modern. The glazes are very soft. This was a very good line of dinnerware. Everybody wanted to have their own line of pastel dinnerware after this came out. Just like everybody wanted to have their own line of Fiesta-style dinnerware when Homer Laughlin released Fiesta. So HLC's response to Luray Pastels was Serenade. Unfortunately, they had a lot of trouble with these glazes. And the development, I describe it as being rather rushed. And if you want to know more about that, go to the website Laura Hollow Park, scroll down to the Homer Laughlin section and look at the Serenade, and you can see what I wrote about Frederick Reed's notes on this line. He was not happy with this. He laments that he wished he had more time to develop the line. They had so much trouble with the glazes. The Fiesta fumes would interfere with the Serenade glazes when they were being fired. Because all this solid color dinnerware, whether it be Fiesta, Harlequin, Riviera, Tango, or these pastel glazes, they were all done in plant number 4 side by side. And the fumes from one would interfere with the fumes from the other. So they really did not make an attempt to perfect these glazes. And by 1942, they even admit that. They say, look, we've had so much trouble with this, we're just going to flat out discontinue this line. It was made with the stylized wheat spiral motif on the rim. It's repeated on the hollowware towards the edge. I don't have green to show you. There's yellow, pink, blue, and there's also a green. When the glaze is done right, though, it's really nice. It's a very soft, almost like a century vellum texture to it. However, when it's wrong, it's wrong. I mean, you can see the splotchiness in this pink shaker. It's interesting to look at some of the correspondence with respect to Serenade. For example, Gimbel's department store, they sold Wells art glazes. And in the I think it's late 1939 or 1940, where they write to Homer Laughlin and they say, oh, we want some more of the rust and the art glaze. And they say, you know what, we're going to be doing away with the art glaze. How about some Serenade instead? So they're trying to push this line. And Gimbel's is like, no, no thank you. But they wanted the art glazes instead. So yeah, this is somewhat of a miss for Homer Laughlin. We do see it being sold similar to Fiesta. That was the intent. They wanted this to be on the same scale as Fiesta. They wanted it to expand over time, and it just didn't happen. But we do see it was sold in open stock: berry sets, cake set, tea set, breakfast set, dinner sets. The trade journal advertisement for it. Of course, all trade journal advertisements do this. They puff it up, the tableware of the year. This is how it was advertised in 1939. There was a lot going on when Serenade was developed. You've got the theme eggshell shape going on. The World's Fair in New York was going on. There was expansion in Fiesta ware going on, and all kinds of stuff. So they really did not have the time to develop this properly, and they sort of just rushed right through it. But that being said, even though it's produced for a short period of time, you can find it. If you were to go to eBay right now and type in Laughlin Serenade, there'd be all kinds of pieces that would show up. You could put a set together. Might take a little time, but a little patience, but you can do it. Serenade is marked with special marking. It says Serenade, Homer Laughlin, made in the USA. The ones that we just saw, Tango and Riviera, they're not marked at all. The last one we're going to look at is Pastel Nautilus. This was made at the request of Woolworths. They wanted a pastel dinnerware line similar to Fiesta. So Homer Laughlin took the Nautilus shape. We looked at Nautilus in video number 10. And they added the Serenade glazes to it. So we have a platter back here. We've got the casserole. It has the distinctive shell handles and finial, an oval baker, and 2 cream soup cups. This was not a success either. This, in fact, if you find any of these, you're going to find it's going to be marked out with March 1940 back stamps. All of these have the C40 marking on it with Nautilus. C40. I'm sure this has C40 as well. Yep. So it's a very short period of time. Only 2 pieces were developed for this: the double egg cup, which was a modification of the Kraft Blue Egg cup, and the teacup was enlarged. Everything else just comes directly from the Nautilus shape. So it's easy to put together. Again, it's just like Riviera. You had the shapes, you had the glazes, just put it together, and you have a line instantly. So that's a little bit about these pastel wares. We'll see pastel lines again in the form of Jubilee. And again, Jubilee was not a huge success either. But we'll see that when we get to Don Schreckengost. So that's going to be it. We've got Pastel Nautilus, Serenade, Riviera, and Tango.